Hello and welcome to the Grit Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. This is your host, Bryce Moose, otherwise known as the Commissioner and the only two-timer. Joining me today is my co-host, Jacob Kaplan. Jacob, how we doing?
How we doing, brother? I'm doing good. Ready to get into some risers, fallers, surprises. A little bit different than what we've usually done, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this a good bit, but just wanted to get those first couple of shows out of the way, get comfortable and everything. But now we can get into the real content for the regular season that hopefully helps, everyone who plays Dynasty football as well as regular fantasy football and their redraft leagues. And um, I hope there's some great takeaways that everyone had from week one. It was an exciting week. Games were kind of messy, but we definitely learned a lot. So I'm excited to get into it.
Let's do it. You want to rip it off?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like we're going to do a little risers, fallers, and kind of surprises overall as today's format. So we'll kick it off with the risers here. Jacob, who was the first guy on your list?
Oh
Actually,
man,
I should ask you first. Did you decide to rank your guys or just give five overall?
I didn't decide to rank them. I just gave five overall, so I'll
Okay, I
just
did
rip
too.
through them and just guys in general, five guys in general that I thought produced more than we would have thought.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, we had the same strategy there as well. So
yeah.
okay,
So I'll start off. A guy after my own heart, dear Bob Woods, Bobby Trees, 75% of snaps, 10 targets, around I think it was around 70 yards, 80 yards or something. Still ended up with like um 12, 13 PPR points. So
yep,
um a guy that wasn't really talked about in the offseason, in my opinion, is a guy that I got from Alec for as kind of a throw-in. And pretty much what I hoped for was that veteran guy in Houston that's going to get, you know, I guess he gets 10 targets a game. I wasn't expecting 10, but um, I think he's just kind of that safety net for CJ Stroud right now, which I think is pretty huge. It doesn't look like CJ's really too keen on hitting Schultz for a safety net, so it looks like it's going to be Bob Woods there.
yeah, and Robert Woods actually did make my list. I put him in the old guys category. So we kind of both had the same takeaways there with Robert Woods. Um, I was, we did hear some stuff in the offseason about like, hey, like he's going to be involved and like, yeah, maybe Nico's the number one, but Robert Woods has
Yeah.
always been that slot and underneath guy. Fits what, Stroud's going to want to do as a rookie. So I think the main takeaway for me is like, yeah, like Robert Woods actually can still play a little bit. So that was definitely encouraging to see. The other guy I had listed in my old guys category was actually Allen Robinson, who kind of had the same
He
thing
did.
going for the Steelers. 75% of the snaps for him. He ran 50. He had 56 snaps and ran 46 total routes, which I think was only four behind Pickens and Deontay.
Yeah.
Uh, that's just really encouraging. Allen Robinson is somebody who we thought was maybe out of the NFL pretty soon here. Another guy on Alex's team. I know we don't want to make this too focused on our main league here, but again,
Yeah.
just a guy who I didn't expect too much from, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, like this guy's kind of playing. Calvin Austin is still going to be there, but Calvin Austin is a little diminutive guy. I'm not expecting too much overall from him. But nice to see some of the old guys actually getting some work in week one.
Yeah, it was weird in Pittsburgh there. It's not the usual suspects that really produced. It was Calvin Austin and Alan Bob, but um, yeah, good showing from him, and maybe he'll keep it going as that number
Yeah.
three
All
or
right.
maybe number
Second,
two because Deontay's out now, right?
Deontay is going to be out. It sounds like at least a month. Had an aggravating injury, and he's just been a guy who's kind of been hurt his whole career.
Yeah,
This is kind of the chance for George Pickens to kind of show us what he's made of. Again, very tough week one matchup. I'm not going to hold anything from the Steelers against them in week one. They got down 20-0 in 5 minutes in that game, and just playing pure catch up. They're 49ers playing prevent defense and letting those pass rushers get after it. So I think that's a game you just throw away. But I'm pretty excited to see what Pickens and the rest of that offense can do going forward.
yeah. All
All
right,
right,
you want me to rip off the next one?
I'll lead the way here on number two.
All right, let's do it.
My second guy was Kyron Williams, maybe a guy who made your list as well. But, coming into the season, we kind of viewed Kyron Williams as like probably the third down back for the Rams. I know he was a guy the best ball community was taking late in drafts if you're pretty plugged in, just because
Yeah,
um, as much as we might like or might have liked Zach Evans as a prospect, I mean, Kyron's just getting all the stuff in with the first team in preseason. We kind of just figured Cam Akers would be that guy, but it turns out that Kyron Williams is going to be kind of this 1A 1B with Cam
Yeah.
Akers. Again, I don't think Kyron Williams is some great prospect, but when Cam Akers gives you 20 carries for 22 total yards, there's opportunity there for just somebody to step in. So Kyron Williams, definitely a riser on my list.
Yeah, so I had Kyron as a surprise just because we didn't really talk much about them in the off season. It
Yeah.
was really more on Zach Evans and Kyron. Um, so he comes in 15 carries at two TDs, solid yards per carry, and crushed. So Cam Akers a little worried about his production. I have some stock in Cam, so it's a little worrisome. But yeah, Kyron definitely showed up, played well, two TDs, definitely producing at that position.
Yeah. Um, Number two on your list, who will it be?
Number number two, the old Puki Puka Nakua.
Okay.
You have to put him in there, right? He takes over the Cooper Cup role, like straight up Cooper Cup role. 15 targets for 10 catches, 100 something yards, um, around 11 yards per catch, which is kind of huge. So it's not
Mhm.
just he's catching these little dinky routes; he's getting deep targets, and I think somewhere like compared to Cooper Cup's week one when he had his breakout, he is producing even more than Cooper Cup. So it'll be interesting. It's definitely a riser. Kind of similar to last year, we all might have had this thought process of, okay, Cooper Cup's hurt. Last year we saw Ben Swarnrick or Tutu Atwell. We all had these high hopes for them to get the role, and it really just turned into Tyler Higbee was getting all the targets.
Yeah.
But now it's Puka, and he's crushing. So that's why he makes my risers.
Yeah, I actually had both the Rams guys, Tutu and Puka, listed in surprises just because we kind of figured they'd all play, but the production was something that I think really caught everyone off guard. Tutu was somebody the DFS community was talking about as like a week one kind of punt play. Puka Nakua was like a tournament, throw him in one lineup and see what happens, sort of
Yeah,
thing. I just didn't know they had this in them, and then them both having 120 yards each is like pretty shocking. Again, that Seahawks team is like it's not a bad team. I mean, playoff team last year, another a team that people expect to make the playoffs again this year. The Rams kind of just took it to them for four quarters.
right.
Um, when Cup gets back, I'm not really sure how this all shakes out. So that's just a very a wait and see moment. But to see those guys like ready to step in and contribute straight away was definitely a huge surprise to me.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
one of those things you hope that when Cooper Cup comes back, that Puka gets, he is either the wide receiver two or, you know, wide receiver 2B or something like that, that nothing will really take away. Obviously, 15 targets isn't probably efficient when Cooper Cup comes back, but, hopefully he still gets around 8 to 9 targets and uh, 60, 70 yards, I mean, that's definitely great fantasy production.
yeah, and that kind of the way this directly affects Van Jefferson is kind of why I had Van Jefferson listed on my list of fallers, just because listen, he was fourth on the team in targets for the Rams when it should be like his chance. He's like the one guy who's kind of played a little bit to step in here. He dropped a 40-yard, what should have been touchdown in that game too. I don't know if you saw that play.
Hmm.
Just dropped it straight in the hands. Um, am I crazy for saying like Tutu and Puka are kind of like better than Van Jefferson? I mean,
No, no, he's had his chances, and Tutu was pretty young last year, and so it's taken him some time to develop. But Van Jefferson has had his time at the Rams, so
yeah.
I think he's definitely getting surpassed by both those guys at this point.
Yeah, and the only reason he really was playing was just because he's a bigger receiver. And Puka, I know, is 6'2", 210, but Tutu being such a small guy, it's like hard to play him on the outside. But I think the Rams might get creative here, and you'll see the Cup, Puka, Tutu kind of three receiver set, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
Number three, who you got there?
I got Romeo Doubs, baby.
Okay.
Going back to our Green Bay offense. Now, snap percentage around 45%, so not great, right? But 5 targets, 4 catches, 2 TDs. If he's going to be the red zone threat, by all means, I'm plugging him at my flex spot all day long. Um, Obviously, maybe that those numbers of the targets continue to go up, but if he's going to be the red zone guy, I'd love to have him on my team.
Yeah, it was definitely encouraging to see him score those two touchdowns. Again, this Bears team just I wanted I want to get excited about what I saw from Jordan Love and that Packers offense, but it's like I need to see it again because this Bears team is just exactly what we saw last year out of them.
You will.
They're fun for 2 quarters, and then the game just gets out of hand. Jordan
Yeah.
Love really didn't have to do much in that second half. They kind of were just killing clock at that point. So again, Romeo just missed my cut, but definitely great to see what he was doing. That's a good pick for sure.
Yeah. Go for it.
Third on my list is a guy dear to my heart, Mr. James Cook. The only reason I have him as a riser here is just because everything we heard in the offseason is what came true. 65% of the snaps, bulk and majority of carries, 6 targets in that game, 5 catches. Again, it's a brutal matchup. He didn't have some like breakaway plays. He didn't have a single breakaway run or breakaway catch in that game. Still ended up with over 11 fantasy points. I think for anybody starting James Cook as a wide receiver or a running back two this year, I think you're going to be pretty happy with the output. Again, I think he kind of fits on a lot of teams and just he's been a continuous riser this summer. And it's good to see all the stuff that we saw in the offseason kind of come true.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely dominated the carries and targets like you spoke of. I think Damian Harris had like one goal line carry or something like that, one in the red zone
Yeah, I
for
got blown
nothing
up.
like yeah, nothing substantial. I mean, there's no threat there, so definitely good to see. Now, of course you'd like to see a touchdown or something like that, but let's be reminded this Jets defense, whether
Mhm.
it's Aaron Rodgers or Zach Wilson at QB, this Jets defense is for real. Jermaine Johnson, my boy Quentin Williams, like those guys are freaks, right? So it's not going to be some easy time for the offense, James Cook or whoever it is, to get past those front lines. So um, the fact that he still managed to put out double digits is was great to see.
Yeah, and the other thing too is they did a design kind of running back wheel route to him. I'm sure if you were watching the game, you remember this play. It should have been a
Yeah,
touchdown that Josh Allen kind of underthrew him. He actually had to step on the linebacker. He just kind of underthrew it a little bit.
yeah,
Josh Allen had a miserable game, and look, this Jets defense. We've been saying it all offseason. I think they're the best defense in the league. I don't think
yeah,
anything that they showed on Monday night should surprise anybody. Um, D line plus the secondary, all the star talent they got there. It's crazy. Like even with Zach Wilson, I think this team is still a threat. I know it might sound crazy still to make the playoffs, just because they're going to be in every game. If Zach Wilson could just be okay, like they still got a shot.
yeah,
Yeah. Next guy on my list. Well, actually, we talked about my old guys because I had Allen Robinson and Robert Woods
yeah.
listed. The last guy was Calvin Ridley. You know, we haven't seen him play football in a while. All of the offseason hype, all of the camp videos of him looking great. Sure enough, it's just as good as advertised. Trevor Lawrence clearly loves him. Getting all that. He had 92 yards and a touchdown at halftime. And that was kind of a weird game. It was back and forth, a lot of three and outs.
Yeah.
And then, obviously Anthony Richardson's debut. But I think Calvary is going to have some big games coming up. Again, the Jaguars play the Chiefs this week. Going to be a lot of passes. I think he's somebody you're feeling good about as a wide
There it
receiver
is.
one or wide receiver two in your lineups.
Yeah, he just missed my cut. Pretty much just because of what you said, all the off-season hype. Like it remained to be true. Picked up right where he left off. Looks healthy. Looks in shape. Big catch is very explosive. So I mean, um, definitely the wide receiver one out there in Jacksonville. So I mean, and probably even a wide receiver one on your team easily.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Trevor Lawrence loves him. Not much to say there, honestly. It's just he's a great wide receiver and he's going to produce big time.
Yeah. Is there any more risers on your list, or are we get to move the fallers?
Yeah, I got two risers. I kind of grouped
Okay.
together, Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. You know, just in
Okay.
in
Yep.
lack of J.K. Dobbins. I was fade J.K. Dobbins all the time because he's always just hurt, right? And now these guys come in. Gus Edwards probably looking like the more I don't know how to say it specifically, but
The
like
early down
geared back.
plugger. Yeah.
exactly. And then Justice Hill is probably your goal line guy. Just he got those touchdown opportunities, but Gus Edwards had 4 yards per carry on most of his carries, and Justice Hill had like one or something like that. So,
Mhm.
um, if you got both those guys, they go from deep bench stashes to possible flex plays depending on the matchup.
Yeah, and Justice Hill is somebody I held on my team all last year because I really like his profile as a pass catching running back. Again, Lamar's never been a throw to your running backs kind of guy, but that's kind of how he profiles and everything. Interesting that he got 2 goal line carries.
Yeah,
Those 2 touchdowns close. If the Ravens like him enough, Justice Hill could be somebody who we have a different opinion about here in about a month. He could have a nice couple game stretch.
yeah, that's why I put him on the riser. It just kind of seems like they're 1A, 1B right now. And
Yeah.
they've kind of done that before, from previous seasons when JK's been hurt. Um, they just kind of switch off between those guys. They both play.
Yeah. Um, I really like your list there. I think you covered a lot of this. I think we had a lot of the same ideas, a lot of the
Yeah,
same names. Even if you left them off the list, I think we were thinking about a lot of the same people. But heading over to Fallers, I'm pretty sure we're going to have one guy who's the same here.
yeah. Like, can I
Um,
start it off? I got to put down my horse, man.
okay.
Um, it's sad to say, it's sad to have him on my followers, but it's two guys grouped together just like the risers. But Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney. Unfortunately, Sky Moore, 37 routes run, 3 targets, 0 catches in 1 rush. Now, just awful game. Not what we wanted to see. It was perfect script for him, perfect scenario. Kelsey's out. Who's going to be the guy to step up? Nobody really did. Um, Kadarius Toney, lots of drops. Both of them had big chances where they could have been the guy that the team now looks to, and they dropped the ball. So definitely Fallers on my list because it kind of seemed like for Sky it was like now or never, and it seems like never now. But
Yeah.
I'm still hopeful. I'm gonna stash him away. Won't accept anything more than
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
third.
It's.
But we'll see.
I was literally about to ask you like, what would you accept straight up for Sky Moore? I don't think you're getting offered anything more than like a late third at this point. As
Yeah,
just a wait and see. Like if somebody has a ton of third round picks, they're just like, hey, let me take a shot on it. Maybe
yeah,
they would offer you that. But when it comes to dynasty, like Sky Moore is kind of this just. We had this conversation with Najee Harris last year to start the year. Do you remember how bad he was those first couple games?
it was
And it
bad.
was like, well, you could sell him, but you're never getting anything for him, or it's just
He still
hold and just
managed to
hope
get
the
like 10
situation.
points every game, but it was still awful
Yeah, it
to
was like just
watch.
hold and just hope the situation gets better. I think that might be what Sky Moore has kind of transitioned into, where
100%.
selling him doesn't do anything for your team. Maybe again, it's just one game. They played that first opening primetime slate game. I don't think if everybody's eyes were on the game, I don't think the community sentiment would be so down on him. But
I agree.
I
And I
still
was
think there's
surprised
a
it seemed more focused, like the negativity seemed more focused on Kadarius Toney than Sky Moore.
yeah,
Kadarius Toney only played 25% of snaps. Like, what do you
yeah.
expect from him? And he still had 5 targets. So, like, I don't know. It's not awful. I mean, he still had 0 catches, but, or he had 1 catch, but still, like,
Well, I think my takeaway there is like Sky's still gonna play. I think there's gonna be better days ahead for him. Kadarius Tony is the one that my goodness. This is somebody who's had the long laundry list of injuries over his short career already. Missed a ton of training camp. They got him back for week one. You're like, oh wow, like Kadarius Tony's like healthy, ready to go. He's out there and probably played the worst game I've ever seen a receiver play. With that said, like I mean, Kadarius, I'm not even sure I'd give you a third rounder for him because he looks so
yeah,
bad,
yeah.
and it's the kind
Especially
of
if he's not
game
getting the
where
snaps either.
not getting the snaps. I mean, what's he worth in Dynasty at this point? I mean, this is like a true just cut in half value after one game, and that's like extremely rare, I think, to
Yeah.
see this early in the season. But it's just real low on him. Um, I left those 2 guys on my like just missed the cut list just because I figured that you would bring them up.
Yeah.
So I'll lead you off with my first guy here, Drake London. My goodness, Drake London with a
My,
same zero. It's not even that he had the zero because like look, T
we
Higgins
know
had
the
zero
talent's
too.
there.
Yeah, and look, like T. Higgins saw 8 targets, and Joe Burrow just had a really bad game. We can just throw that game out for the Bengals. I don't want to touch T. Higgins. I don't think of him any less.
Yeah, I
The
agree.
reason Drake London makes my list, he only ran 20 routes in that game.
I didn't see that. That is surprising.
He saw 1 target and only ran 20 routes. He was
To be
second
fair,
in.
they only threw about 20 passes, but
Yeah, I think Ritter. I think Ritter threw it 22 times. London
yeah,
ran 20. Kyle Pitts ran 21. But the reason that Drake London's on this list is like, my goodness, like where does the upside come from? Because look, even if you think Drake London is just as good as Olave or Garrett Wilson or any of the other guys when it comes just to talent, again, was he seventh overall pick or something like that? Um,
yeah,
the reason that he is a faller is we're going to be through the second year of his career, and if they don't upgrade this quarterback position, or if Ritter doesn't improve, I mean, you're looking at 2 years of like a wasted production for a guy who like we're excited about, and so I just
yeah.
don't know what he's worth at that point. Again, I tried to send some feelers out for Drake London. I think this time last year he would have demanded 2 first round picks because we did see the good games. Right now, I offered a 25 first and a 20 second or a 25 second. Austin told me
Fair.
no, which I felt like I was overpaying and he turned me down. Like I felt like that was a generous offer.
Yeah.
And if he's not going to accept that, then I'm good. I'm fully good on that.
Yeah, that's kind of the max that I would be giving. Is a first and a second, whether that's 2024 or 2025, whatever. That's kind of the max I would be giving for Drake London. He made my list as well. Just a giant goose egg. And honestly, I don't know if it's really even Ritter's fault as well. I mean, what are you going to do when you have 12 drives and you only have 22 passes? You're throwing 2 passes a drive. Like, you can't get hot. You at least got to throw some checkdowns and um, read the defense every now and then instead of just tossing the ball off to Bajan and letting him go crazy or um, handing the ball off to Algier. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I think you just got to give the guy some chances. Whether he burns you or not, that's fine. I get that it's a conference game. Maybe they don't want to take their chances there, but um, I don't know. I would like to see them throw maybe around 28, 29 passes a game and just give the guy some chances. Give Kyle Pitts more chances. Give Drake London more chances.
Yeah, and as somebody who's been a big Kyle Pitts believer personally, the reason that I'm so worried is that like I think this Falcons team is actually pretty good from like a football
Yeah.
perspective. Like I think they're going to win games, and they just showed you what they want to do, which is if they get the lead, it's just going to be Bijan and Algier, short passes, little dump offs, try to get first downs and just kill the clock, which is great for winning games in real life, but it's really bad for fantasy and have all this talent on the roster. Like literally every single Falcons skill position player we're excited about, and there's just not enough volume to go around, which is really discouraging.
Yeah.
Would you rather have Drake London or 3 seconds?
Probably 3 seconds right now, just because of the uncertainty at QB position. Again, it has no doubt on Drake London's ability. We saw, like the thing again is like we saw what they're capable of at the end of last season. You know, Drake
Yeah,
London and Ritter go on this tear. So
yeah,
why can't they do it now? I don't know. Why aren't they giving them the chances to? I don't know. Like that was kind of the hope around Drake London was the I think it was like the last 8 games or something like or last six they
yeah.
went off on a tear and I don't know. I think they're capable. I think they just got to give them a chance. But as of right now, if like things remain the same, definitely 3 seconds.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like the reason that Drake London's value has kind of maintained where it is because it's so easy to project. Okay, maybe the Falcons are going to be in the quarterback sweepstakes, and like, there's a potential that somebody next year is like a really good throwing QB and can like really involve all of these guys. They spent all of this high draft capital and everything. But like I think that's a price you pay when we get to the end of the season. Like if I think Drake London definitely has the chance to increase his value. I think very easily can, but right now it just feels like it's dwindling slowly away. And when I was kind of talking with Austin about Drake London in general, my thought was like, look, if he finishes the first month of the season with like 130 total receiving yards, his value's not going up there. Like
Yeah.
it's just going to continue to go down, and you're kind of going to wish you took my offer if that's the case. So
Right.
again, definitely somebody I had on my followers list.
Yep. I had him as well. Moving into I guess my third, DJ Moore. 2 for 2, man, and that was it. Um, it just kind of seemed like the Bears flipped the script on Fields a little bit. They got away from what they were good at and tried to be something they're not. Um, and targeting your best receiver for only 2 targets, a little worrisome. Looked like Darnell Mooney was the guy there. I forget how many targets he had, but I think it was upwards of like 10 or something like that. Um,
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, Moody did out target him.
2 for 2 and
I think
12
Cole
yards.
Kmet
I mean,
did
he still
too.
had like 12 yards a catch. So, I mean, I guess there's that's something to hope for, but um, I don't know. DJ Moore just kind of seems like the right guy to fit that mold for their offense, get the ball and go to work
Yeah.
after the catch. But I don't know. It's worrisome that he only went 2 for 2 in the debut.
Did you see the clips I sent you on Twitter of that guy who breaks down like quarterbacks passing from like the All 22
Yeah,
view?
the QB school guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So he posted an hour-long YouTube video breaking down that Bears offense in the first game.
yeah.
I
He was
haven't
not
watched it.
happy.
I was just watching the clips on Twitter,
He
but
wasn't happy.
it is one of the most poorly designed offenses that just doesn't
Yeah,
help Justin Fields. And like, after looking at the box score and you see the score of the first game, it's easy to like kill Justin Fields for it. I really don't think it's his fault based on what I saw.
it's
I mean,
not.
they literally have a high school offense, and they don't help him. So again, DJ Moore 100% makes sense to be a follower. He actually did not make my list, so I like that one.
Yeah, just tough scene.
Um, Number two on mine, Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk left the field in all two wide receiver sets. Christian Kirk only played, I think,
Yeah,
60% of the snaps. He only had one catch for 9 yards. They don't need him anymore. Christian Kirk was given this huge contract last year. He was a top 10 receiver in fantasy all the way through week 15 last year. And all of a sudden, it's like he's a forgotten piece. All of the value you could have gotten for Christian Kirk is now just disintegrated, and he's a fancy Jackson Smith and Jigba right now. That's what he
yeah,
is.
yeah. And I will say I don't want to get too
Fancy Puka Nakua.
yeah, yeah. I don't want to get too crazy over week one, right? Like I think DJ Moore will do better than 2 for 2, but at the same time, it's worrisome when they come out and the guys who were your superstars last year, DJ Moore, uh, Christian Kirk, they have like 1 or 2 catches.
Yeah.
That's a little frightening. Um, but again, like you mentioned, I would hold on both those players. I wouldn't sell at this point. I would hold on until they have a great game and then maybe make your move from there. But yeah, it definitely makes sense to be a faller because Zay Jones catching touchdown passes and Ridley catching touchdown passes and Evan Ingram catching passes. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, that's just the story of the Jaguars, right? Is like when you have all these mouths to feed, somebody's going to take the hit. Tank Bigsby had a rushing touchdown in the first game, too. I just, there will be better days ahead for Christian Kirk. I just think it's kind of limited for what his ceiling really looks like this year.
yeah,
Next guy on your list.
another guy after my own heart. Another Michigan, or not another, but a Michigan boy. Um, Zach Sharp, 24% of snaps, 3 carries. Not what we'd like to see. Hopefully, they're just easing him in, but I think the narrative after you take a guy in the second round is kind of like it's going to be a 1A, 1B, and that's kind of what we all figured, right? But
Right.
um, 24% of snaps, 3 carries, rough.
Yeah, the Seahawks look terrible in general. I actually think days are going to be better for Charbonnet.
They should.
The snap share is the one that it's kind of concerning. I mean, Kenneth Walker had kind of been banged up a little bit the last couple weeks too, so
Right.
I actually expected him to or Sharp to play a little bit, but yeah, that's not what you like to see. And again, like the Seahawks, that was the worst in the Geno tenure for how their offense had looked. Geno was not good the last 3 games of the season last year. Um, I think it's time to panic if the Seahawks start 0-2. I think.
Yeah, I mean the reason I have him on the followers is because this is Charbonnet is a guy that people probably took around like 107, 106. I forget where he went in our draft, but he goes around there, and that's kind of a guy that you want to come out and produce right away. And similar to Quentin Johnston, he only got like 25% of snaps or something. But
Yeah,
um, again, you want to see a little bit more out of game one. Again, I do agree going forward. brighter days ahead, but just a little worrisome. Not what we expected.
No, not what we expected. And historically, Pete Carroll's been pretty, just go out there if you're a rookie because we saw Kenneth Walker do it. JSN played a ton in the slot. It's just Gino didn't. I mean, Gino's just terrible. But um, he's what I'm trying to say is like they're not afraid to play rookies. So I don't think it's one of those situations where they're trying
Right.
to ease him in. But
Yeah.
we'll have to see with him. Next guy, I kind of mentioned him earlier on my followers list was Cam Akers, just because Cam Akers was drafted pretty high in redraft. He's somebody that would have demanded a pretty decent price, I think, in if you're trying to trade for him. Anybody trying to sell Cam Akers right now is just getting like Kyron Williams might be the best back in that backfield, man. And my goodness, when you have that inefficient of a game and your team still wins by like 14 points, that's not good for you.
Yeah.
He lost 2 goal line carries to Kyron Williams as well. I just don't know where the fantasy points are coming from for him. Just somebody who's just fallen very, very far, very quickly in my rankings.
Yeah, he's a guy you kind of hope that going forward he's 1A, 1B, at least 1B. He's a guy that I have in some of my redraft leagues, was kind of hoping he would be the workhorse there because we didn't hear much about, any competition. Um, but lo and
Yeah,
behold, Kyron Williams there, two TDs, man. So it's
yeah.
uh it's scary. But hopefully, I mean, again, 22, 25 carries, still got the opportunity. So hopefully in the next game he get similar.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I didn't want to kill him here. Is just because he still did see the workload. It's not like they pulled him completely off the field. It's just when you're that inefficient, that is cause for concern. I think.
Yeah.
Um, who's next on yours?
Devin Singletary. You at least hope that he would be the receiving back or get those third down opportunities. Mr. Boone was the receiving back all game. Um,
Yeah,
and I don't know if I think we talked a little bit about this before, but I don't know if he's on your surprises, but Damian Pierce only about 50% of snaps,
yeah, he's on my
um,
surprises. Yeah,
which is, you'd at least hope he'd be about 75% and get everything but that third down. So, I don't know. It's scary. Singletary was a guy that we had kind of talked about to be like that Rex Burkhead last year, where he could easily get you like the 9, 10 points, but um, did not do well.
yeah. There was talk coming into the season that he'd kind of be the third down back, that he would take some stuff away from Pierce in the running game. Devin Singletary maybe a standalone value as like a
Yeah,
flex play potentially. Pretty concerning, especially in a game where the Texans were trailing like basically the entire time. And Stroud, I think, threw like 35, 36 passes or something. So
yep,
there was opportunity for Singletary. It just didn't happen in week one. And definitely, for all the people excited about Singletary, I think that curtain may have closed. Um, yeah. Um, the next guy on my list is Khalil Shakir. Um, I don't know if you saw this at all. Khalil Shakir played one offensive snap.
I didn't.
This is guy at the end of the season last year. He had that 100-yard game kind of towards the end of the season. All the stuff in the offseason definitely hurt his
Yeah,
value with Kincaid and signing Deontay Hardy, but he's just buried on this depth chart. He's kind of a special teamer. Like, that's what he is at this point. And, if you wanted to trade Khalil Shakir or throw him into a deal, I think he would have been a nice throw in, I think, for a lot of deals if you're trying to trade him now. If anybody's looking up Khalil Shakir stuff, he's just essentially useless. He's like a fourth round pick kind of value.
yeah,
Deontay Hardy played way more than him, saw more targets, caught more balls. Kincaid again played a ton as like what the Bills are doing with their two tight end sets. Both him and Dawson Knox played a good bit. So I just think it's really hard for Khalil Shakir to matter in fantasy at all this year. And somebody, if you're looking for any kind of value, I think you're going to be pretty disappointed with what somebody's trying to give you back in a trade.
yeah. And it's not great after coach comes out and says we definitely need a number two wide receiver there, right? So um, I think they might try to get somebody and pull him in.
Yeah,
Somebody from another
that's
team. I don't know who it would be. I don't have any hot takes there, but I don't see Khalil stepping up and being the number two guy.
No, no, and he always played the slot in college, and for the for the Kincaid kind of experiment with what they're doing with him is like the slot receiver or big slot receiver kind of role.
Yeah,
It kind of looked like it worked, even though Josh Allen had probably the worst game of his career. But
yeah,
um,
yeah,
I just don't think it's happening there for him.
yep.
Um, all right, who you got?
That's it on my followers. We
That's
had
it.
Drake London. Yeah, for
Okay,
sure, Drake
I
London
got
there.
I got one last one. Antonio Gibson. The reason I wanted to bring up Antonio Gibson is we heard all offseason how he's going to be the kind of 1A in this backfield, should split snaps.
Get the wide receiver
Brian,
carries for
yeah,
catches.
Brian Robinson had 19 more snaps than him, saw more carries, saw more targets, even caught a touchdown. Antonio Gibson played 25 snaps and had less than one fantasy point.
It's tough.
I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, that's you're playing the Cardinals, right? Like that's the matchup that you would hope that Antonio Gibson matters. Maybe if they play one of these games where they get down early and have to do a lot of dump offs to running backs, he should play more. Again, I don't think this is going to be the worst. I don't think it's totally over for him this season, but as far as like the 1A lead back stuff, I think that's already dead. That was just coach speak. It's Brian Robinson on first and second.
Yeah, and again, I've always said this about Antonio Gibson. It doesn't make sense to me. I think he's a great talent, and he has the capability to catch the ball out of the backfield and make people miss, and even run between the tackles. But I don't know why, but it just seems like they don't want to give him the opportunities. And Brian Robinson was always kind of this bruiser guy, even in college at Bama. So I think he's just going to continue to be the same thing. I don't know why they won't give Tony Gibbs some more opportunity. And he's a guy that in the offseason, I think you were demanding a first for, like a late first. And now I'm not sure what you could get for him. Maybe a early second, late second, early third, maybe.
I think he's a throw in a deal where you're trying to upgrade something. So, like, if you said Chris Godwin and Antonio Gibson to get one receiver tier up, maybe that interests somebody who's kind of thin at running
Yeah.
back, but something like that. Like, I was asking for a first for Antonio Gibson, not expecting to get a first. I figured he was worth like a mid second, but you never know what somebody's willing to pay you.
Yeah.
Um,
Just got to
but
get someone to believe the hype.
I mean, the honest truth was I was actually pretty excited about him this offseason. It wasn't like super thrilled to move him when I did because, man, if he comes out first couple games and looks good, like I could have gotten a lot more for him.
Yeah.
But that's just about as bad as it could have gone for him in week one. So
Yeah.
that concludes my followers list.
Surprisers?
Surprisers. We probably should just lead with Damian Pierce just because we kind of mentioned him already.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, 46% of the snaps was losing work to Mike Boone, losing work to Devin Singletary. He's just such a whatever guy. Again, like D'Amico Ryans is a new coach there for the Texans, has no
Connection.
affiliation
Yeah.
to Damian Pierce. Again, he was a fourth round pick. The Texans basically owe him no money already. So, uh, what is he really? We drafted him to be kind of a low tier RB1, high tier RB2 potentially, who should get a ton of work. But if he's not going to get the work, like I just don't really
Worrisome.
know what to do with him. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird that it's kind of turned into like I want to say three-headed animal. It's not a three-headed monster by any means, but
three
um
headed squirrel. Yeah,
yeah, I was gonna say so, like a
yeah.
turtle or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's very surprising. Sub 50% of the workload. You at least hope you'd be you know, the guy to go out there and do a halfback dive every now and then, or every single first down and get 3 yards or 4 yards. But um, I don't know. Losing
Yeah.
opportunity to Mike Boone is just kind of mind blowing to me. I never saw that coming.
I mean, what are we doing? First off, that's why it's in my surprises, is
Yeah,
because nobody saw that
exactly.
coming.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I was kind of thinking Damian Pierce 65-35 with Singletary, and that was
yeah.
kind of the two they would play. Um,
Out
and
comes
again, like
Mike
maybe
Boone.
it's out comes Mike Boone, and Mike Boone is they cut it on red zone, and Mike Boone catches a little 4 yard dump off pass, and I was
I
like,
think
is that
I saw the same
Singletary?
thing.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, I saw the
yeah.
same thing.
I was like, who is this? But
Yeah,
the reason it's on my surprises is like I have no idea if that's like a trend or not. That could be something where it's just like a random week one for whatever reason they like that matchup or something.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't really change my priors on Damian Pierce of like I think he's kind of like a just a guy sort of player. If he's getting the work, great. If he's not, he's a backup running back. That's what he
Yep.
is. But yeah, wait and see for me. But that was my first surprise on my list.
Yeah. First, so I kind of got a trio here. Um, I'm just gonna go with the Patriots offense. Kendrick Bourne, um,
Hunter Henry, that's who you're thinking of.
Hunter Henry, yeah. But 54 passes. Kendrick Bourne goes for, I think, how many was it? 10,
Six for
11,
64 and two touchdowns on 11 targets. Yeah,
and 11 targets. So, I mean, it's just kind of out of nowhere. And I never really quite imagined Mac Jones coming out and throwing 54 passes, especially against the Eagles. But I don't know, it was wild. So those guys make my
yeah,
list. They're definitely not afraid to throw the ball at this point. Booty had some good work out there. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but yeah,
he had one drop.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, one target, one drop. Um, the thing that was surprising to me is like
He only
last
had
year
one
they had.
target, one drop.
I'm pretty sure, unless I
Oh,
missed that. I
oh,
know
you're probably right.
Demario Douglas had a couple catches, but um, the thing that was really surprising to me is that last year they had Matt Patricia as the offensive coordinator, and it was kind of a disaster from the start. They hired Bill O'Brien, and I know no one's the biggest fan of Bill O'Brien, but at least it looked like they had a serviceable offense. Um, I thought about putting Juju on my followers just because I don't feel like the Patriots need him. He was kind of
Yeah,
benched for some of these younger guys to get in there. Um, you know, if Mac Jones is going to be efficient, I think a lot of these guys are going to have flex appeal in Dynasty as well as like redraft league. So that's a good thing to make you listed. Actually, I left that one off of mine, but that was a good call.
yeah,
Uh, Second on my surprises list is a new addition to Tennessee and DeAndre Hopkins, who I think ended the game with like 5 for 63, but that's not why he's a surprise for me. It's because he saw 13 targets in this game. The Titans are being, always been this run heavy team. Derrick Henry was getting plugged at the goal line, or not plugged at the goal line, but plugged running up the middle. Tannehill played like his worst career game ever, but Hopkins still saw 13 targets in this game. Um, the reason this one was a surprise for me is because all three of Tannehill's picks were targeting DeAndre Hopkins, and it feels like it's torpedoing this offense. Um, I don't think it helps what they're
yeah,
doing. Like this is the whole problem. Is like if you want to force him the ball, it's just going to lead to bad stuff. Let Hopkins just do his thing on the outside and get to the short routes. The Titans looked like they had no idea how to use him. I had the game up on YouTube TV in the simulcast, like with Red Zone, and I was trying to watch at the same time. But um, man, that was so dysfunctional and just ugly offense. But if Hopkins is going to see this kind of target share, then great. Uh,
yeah.
for whatever it's worth, Traylon Burks led them in receiver snaps and routes run. Only saw 3 targets in the game. I don't know why that is. I don't think that's going to continue, but I don't think I think they're going to learn that if you force Hopkins, the ball is going to lead to turnovers. So,
Yeah,
um,
and to add to this Titans surprise, I think Tajay Spears had every third down.
yes,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, he was on my my next up list. Somebody I wanted to mention, but
he
Tajay
had every
Spears
single third down and took away from Derrick
outsnapped,
Henry,
yeah,
which is
outsnapped
like
Derrick Henry.
which is just very weird. It's pretty surprising that you're going to take probably your best offensive player off the field
Well, and
that
Tannehill
often.
missed him. Do you see Tannehill miss him on the
Yeah,
touchdown?
yeah,
Yeah, Tannehill literally played the worst game I've ever seen a quarterback play in the NFL. Like actively
yeah. It was
trying to
rough.
lose the game for his team. But Tajay Spears actually could have like flex value in like start 10, start 11 leagues potentially. If he's going to get all the third downs, catch a couple passes, get a couple carries, he could potentially get you that 10 to 13 every week, which may be all you need out of that last flex.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I was trying to get from Alec. I ended up getting Deuce Vaughn, unfortunately, but Alec smartly wasn't going to give up Tajay, and I don't
Yeah,
know. He's going to get the work. He's getting the targets. So
yeah, I like that.
yeah,
Next on my list, I had grouped together was just the rookie tight ends. Um, So three guys, Laporta, Musgrave, and Kincaid, all played or all ran 30 routes each. The
Solid.
last time that happened was Kyle Pitts as a first game rookie, and we had three do it in one season. I think all these tight ends are going to be good. I think Mayer will be fine. He's just Jimmy G didn't throw him the ball. He ran 29 routes himself. I mean, he's one route from making this list as
Yeah.
well. But um, having all these very good tight ends, I think, is going to lead to an interesting kind of conversation coming up because the tight end position has been really bad. It was really bad in week one. I think Hunter Henry was overall tight end one. And I think you're going to have a lot of very capable guys here. Luke Musgrave and Kincaid look like every week starters in 12-man leagues.
Yep.
We'll see about Laporta. I think Laporta looked really good, but I mean, God, I think Laporta's there too. I'd rather start Laporta than Dalton Schultz. I think so.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely would. I've been saying it all along.
yeah,
I don't think Dalton Schultz is really that great of a talent. I think he just produced from the Dallas offense. But to
yeah,
go back to what you said, I mean, we've been saying it all off season that this is the best rookie class I think we've ever seen, and they're coming out and producing, which is good to see. I love Luke Musgraves. I think he's big, physical, fast guy, and I think Jordan Love is going to target him all the time.
yeah. I'm really excited about these tight ends. I wish I had a couple more of them. I just have Mayer
Yeah,
myself, but I wish I had a couple of these other guys.
yeah. Um, Going next on the surprisers, I'm going to throw up our boy, Mr. Algier.
Yeah,
I never expected that many carries. How many carries? 15 rushes, 2x in the end zone,
he
25 points
saw
in
he
PPR.
had he had 15 carries for 75 yards and two rushing touchdowns. I think he also caught like three passes as
Yeah,
well, something like that. So
5 yards a
I
carry,
never
dude.
saw that coming. Yeah,
No,
never saw that coming.
I never expected him to be taking away two touchdowns from Bijan. It's a guy that you draft in top 10. Um, right, he went number 8 overall, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah. He was
And
PPR ADP was like 108, 109. Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. I never saw that coming. Maybe it's the Falcons just easing Bijan into the NFL, but I never saw a two-headed monster out there. But again, they're both producing. But
Well, that's
Algier
what I was gonna
2X is
say.
crazy.
Yeah, they both look like every week fantasy starters right now. With how
Yeah,
the
it's no
Falcons play
worries.
offense, like I'm playing both of them if I have them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be worried if I'm a Bijan owner. He's still going to produce.
Yeah, shout out to the best ball bros that were drafting Algier as the handcuff because you actually got two good running backs out of doing that. So
Yeah,
I have a team with that myself
nice,
that crushed in week one. So excited there.
nice.
Um, but yeah, I think Algier's actually a pretty good player. We saw this last year, 1,000 yard runner. But
Yeah,
I think the Falcons also agree that like we can't just take this guy off the field completely,
yeah,
and that's why Bijan ran so many routes and saw those 7 targets. But um, I'm excited about both of these guys. They're the only two Falcons I want on my team, but they're good to
yes.
have. Yeah.
I want
All right.
Ritter as a stand, but sure.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. Next on my surprises list, I doubt you were going to have this one. This is Josh Downs,
Uh,
and the reason I have Josh Downs on my surprises list, Anthony Richardson threw the ball 37 times. Josh Downs ran 36 routes. This dude's an every snap
yeah,
player for the Colts, and Alec Pierce is like the worst receiver in the NFL. So I think Josh Downs is going to have some good games. He had a 30-yard catch in that game. Anthony Richardson also got hit as he threw on what should have been a Josh Downs touchdown
yeah,
late in that game before he got hurt. Um, wasn't either their fault. It was just the guy like hit his arm like right as he threw the ball. It kind of spiked it. But Josh Downs is going to be somebody I think worth keeping an eye on. And I think somebody who also has gone up in value. If you have a league out there with Josh Downs and on another team, and maybe could send out a little feeler offer,
I do.
might be a way to buy low. Buy low.
Yeah, yeah, I will say that was very surprising. I mean, we both thought Anthony Richardson is capable, right? But we weren't expecting him to have the game that he did. And which reminds me, I actually left one off my risers was Pittman. I left Michael Pittman off my risers, but he um, all the snaps, 11 targets, 8 catches, 12 yards per catch. Um, it's a great game, and if Alec Pierce is really the wide receiver three, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman are definitely guys you want to have on your team if Anthony Richardson can keep this up, which I think he can. Um, I think it was funny when you mentioned just wait till he starts throwing to the left side of the field. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
3 attempts left of the hash mark. That's 37 passes, 3 attempts left of the left
yeah.
hash.
But
Insane.
that's great to see out of Josh Downs that he's running that many routes.
Yeah, and I think the Colts in general looked a little bit more competent than other people, or at least what the industry kind of thought heading into the season. It was
Definitely
so
than
much
I
wait and
thought.
see. Yeah, it's so much like wait and see. Can Anthony Richardson actually throw? They looked like a competent NFL team, right?
Yeah.
No one's expecting this team to be a playoff team or make the Super Bowl. Again, if everybody thinks the Jaguars are an 11 or 12 win team, well, the Colts played them up until the end of that game with like a real shot to win there in the fourth quarter. Um, look, like I, I'm buying on Anthony Richardson, man. I think he's going to be really good. I
Yeah,
really do.
I agree. I got him in my redraft league. Love to have him. He's a late stash, or not a late stash, but a late round buy. And yeah, he produced week one, which is great to see. Uh,
I I really like seeing that he wants to throw the ball. Like he was
yeah,
standing in the pocket, taking hits. He wasn't always just first read then scramble. It was like he really wanted to do the progressions and get the ball to everybody. I just loved what I saw from him, and I think there's going to be a lot better days ahead actually running the football.
yeah, he's gonna have a good season there. Um, on my list, I got Rashid Shaheed.
Mm.
6 targets,
He
five
was
catches.
he was on my just
Good.
missed. Yeah,
Yeah, 6 targets, 5 catches, 17, 18 yards per target and per catch, which is shocking. Not shocking. I mean, we've seen him do this before. He's kind of the deep threat guy, but um, I don't know. It was great to see. I forget how many fantasy points he had in PPR, but um, even as a kind of the wide receiver three there behind Olave and Michael Thomas, produced very well.
is Jalen Waddle just fancy Rashid Shaheed? You know,
It's
I think Shaheed's
possible.
better. Look, I'll throw it out there. I think Shaheed's better at football. Okay, fine. Gosh, I'll do it.
Say it.
Um, I really like him. I think he's going to fit really well with Derek Carr. What Derek Carr does well. Michael Thomas had like an okay game, but really that trio looks pretty exciting there for the Saints. I think there's going to
Yeah.
be a lot of good games from those guys. So
Yeah, I think
yeah,
they
definitely a good
complement
one
each
on my
other
list.
well.
Yep. All right, last guy on mine is a surprise, which is really it could be a faller, but I thought it was more personally a surprise to me, just given what we had coming into the season. Is Rashad Bateman? It's just over. He played the same number of snaps as Nelson Aguilar. Like it's over. It's over.
Yeah. Yeah.
I literally would not give a third round. I don't think I would give a third rounder for Rashad Bateman right now. I really don't think I would.
Yeah, I don't think I would either. It's interesting how that trade worked out between me and Jonah. I gave up Dak Prescott and Rashad for Trey Lance and a second, and that second ended up helping me get Zay Flowers. So, definitely interesting how that trade worked out, but uh, I saw him have one nice little catch, diving catch, but that was it. I mean, it seems like I think the Ravens definitely need Mark Andrews to come back. He's going to help,
They
and
do.
I think that's going to help Zay Flowers have even better games and OBJ. But it definitely looks like Rashad is just wide receiver three. It sucks. He was a great college talent, first round pick around that 20th spot, and a lot of injuries. I think that probably plays a part. Hopefully, he's just easing into it, but um, it does suck. You hate to
Yeah,
see it.
and like we came into the season thinking that like Zay, Odell, and Rashad Bateman all kind of had this equal opportunity at receiver. It was kind of like we don't know who the one is, but they all kind of had like an equal shot. Odell and Zay played almost every passing snap, and then Rashad Bateman was down here with Nelson Aguilar playing 25 total snaps in the game. You know, I don't know what you do with that. You can't start him in fantasy.
Yeah.
You know, even like 11-man leagues, 12-man leagues, like I don't think you're starting him or you feel good about it. So I don't think he's worth a second round pick anymore, personally. So also, I offered Jonah before the season because I was trying to buy Rashad Bateman for cheap, thinking he might have like a good season. I offered him Tyler Algier for Rashad Bateman before week one. He turned me down.
You
He
would have
turned me down.
cried. You would
He
have
turned me
cried.
down. Yeah, he turned me down. So funny how these things work out when we
Yeah.
think we know stuff we have no idea
Yeah,
about.
you
So
never know. I mean, there's so many sayings that the coaches come out with, and you get a hold of these Twitter reports or whatever, and you like freak out and you go buy a guy, and then it ends up not being true. Like the line saying that they're gonna use Gibbs in all these different ways, and they come out and use him in what you would kind of expect
and he
from
looked
a.
good doing it. They
You
just
look
wouldn't keep
good,
playing him.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so hopefully it's just kind of one of those easing in things for Gibbs. But I mean, I didn't really have him on my surprises, but yeah, sucks to see out of Bateman. Um, Last on my list because we talked about um, Kyron taking over Cam Akers. Joshua Kelly,
Yeah,
16
yeah, yeah, yeah.
rushes, TD.
Look
Um,
good.
yeah, I mean exactly that, and that was kind of the surprise is that he looked really good doing it. We always had talked about the Chargers need a guy who's going to go out and get you the 3 yards down the middle. Not that Eckler isn't capable of that, but he's not a guy that's really going to move the pile. Um, Josh Kelly definitely can, and he did. 16 rushes was more than I thought he was going to get, and he's definitely handling that RB2 role.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. The Chargers have definitely been asking for that number two back behind Eckler, just to be just can we get a 3rd and 2 run up the middle, right?
Yeah,
Eckler now has a little ankles thing. We'll see if he's playing
exactly.
on Sunday. I think he's gonna play, but you talk about handcuffs and like the value of them. If Eckler misses time, I mean, where does Josh Kelly rank on your running back list? Like, I mean, he's turns like a
Early
weekly
second,
starter.
first, I don't know.
I was gonna say it's like a weekly starter. I mean, he's like a locked in RB2 at that point.
Yeah,
So that's definitely a good one to have on there for sure.
I had Kyron Williams, but that was it on my surprises. We already talked about him.
Yeah, I had a couple more guys written down. Some of these are a little
Yeah,
selfish,
we
but
could go on and on.
yeah, yeah. I just
My
want to mention
Ayuk,
Durham's.
my
Yeah,
Ayuk. I've been telling
Ayuk,
people.
Ayuk just looks like a star. Durham Smythe out targets Jalen Waddle. Uh, Jahan Dotson plays more snaps, runs more routes, gets more targets than Terry McLaurin, like the very clear wide receiver one now in Washington.
Yeah.
Um, there's a couple other guys I could mention, but yeah, is there any final things?
No, nothing from me. I think we had a good list there.
I think we had a good list too. As we head into week two, the biggest thing I want to watch for is DeAndre Swift. What do they do on Thursday with him? Very disappointing week one. He didn't make my list, and we didn't talk about him, but I
Yeah.
want to see what they do with DeAndre Swift. Heading into the next week, just looking forward to more football. Can the Bengals get back on track?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. My mixing.
You're mixing, yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, well, thanks everyone for tuning in today. I hope you guys had some good takeaways and maybe can got some ideas for some trades to toss around in your league. But with that said, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out.